God does not exist, but God is real. This is what Peirce wrote in his text, Answers to Questions Concerning My Belief in God. Quite surprising answer for both believers and non-believers, or theists and atheists. What it comes down to is the difference between reality and existence, which are two separate things for Peirce. However, these two concepts are very often confused with one another. This is something that comes up again and again in all kinds of conversations, not only concerning the reality of God, but also concerning the nature of our reality, the nature of our cosmos. Particularly, I'm referring to the idea of materialism, which makes the claim that in order to be real, you have to exist. That is to say that there is only one mode of being, and that is material, concrete existence. This leads to quite a problematic view in my opinion, that if you claim that there is something beyond the concrete physical existence, or if you even believe that there are more than one mode of being, you are immediately labeled and seen as a believer in something supernatural, something divine.
So I mean, I suppose in very brief, the way I would tend to summarize that the naturalistic point of view is that all that exists ultimately is the material stuff of the universe, and that there are no, as you say, supernatural, as the term suggests, things going on beyond that. So sometimes it's almost synonymous with a physicalist or materialist view.
Now, what's happening here is that they are talking about naturalism. According to Wikipedia, naturalism is the idea or belief that only natural, as opposed to supernatural or spiritual, laws and forces operate in the world. Now, I'm all for naturalism, obviously, and so is Peirce. The problem is that any reference to any other mode of being than concrete existence is seen immediately as being something supernatural. Anything other than material, concrete, forceful existence is thus supernatural. Now, this is not the essence of naturalistic thinking, this is materialistic thinking. The point is that you can be a naturalist without being a materialist. Alright, let's begin with some definitions, shall we? Materialism, according to Merriam-Webster, is a theory that physical matter is the only or fundamental reality, and that all being and processes and phenomena can be explained as manifestations or results of matter. That is to say that the only possible mode of being, the only possible reality, is this physical, concrete, material existence. Now, what is then existence? Peirce writes, "Existence is that mode of being which lies in opposition to another. To say that a table exists is to say that it is hard, heavy, opaque, resonant. That is, it produces immediate effects upon the senses, and also that it produces purely physical effects, attracts the earth, that is heavy, dynamically reacts against other things, that is, has inertia, resists pressure, that is elastic, has a definite capacity for heat, etc. To say there is a phantom table by the side of it, incapable of affecting any senses or of producing any physical effects whatever, is to speak of an imaginary table. A thing without oppositions, ipso facto, does not exist." So existence is about brute reactions. It's about brute opposition. And it is thus dyadic, meaning that it is about one thing reacting with another. To exist is to be in a dyadic relationship with your environment. An object exists if and only if it reacts with every other existing object of the same universe. What does Peirce mean by this? If you're new to this channel, you may not know the three categories of Peirce, so let me introduce them to you. The three categories describe the three different universes of experience. But in this video we can think about the three categories as three simultaneous but distinct modes of being. Peirce writes, "My view is that there are three modes of being. I hold that we can directly observe them in elements of whatever is at any time before the mind in any way. They are the being of positive qualitative possibility, the being of actual fact, and the being of law that will govern facts in the future." Now Peirce names these categories as firstness, secondness, and thirdness. Now for our purposes we can note that existence corresponds with the second category and reality corresponds with the third category. But now, before proceeding any further, we should have a clear idea on what we mean by the word reality. So let us again turn to Peirce. Peirce says, "Real is a word which I use to denote merely that which is such as it is, independently of you or I or any of our community thinking it to be so." Or consider this one. Reality means a certain kind of non-dependence upon thought, and so is a cognitionary character, while existence means reaction with the environment, and so is a dynamic character. Now we are interested in the being of reality, and we will approach this question by investigating the being of a law, because both reality and laws are in the universe of thirdness. So, what is the being of a law? Let's attack this question experimentally. Imagine that you have a stone, and below the stone there is nothing but air. Now, what happens if you let go of that stone? It will fall, obviously, right? So we can make a confident prediction that the stone will fall as soon as I let go of it. But how can I know what's going to happen? How it is possible, so to speak, to see to the future, to know what would happen? We know that this stone will fall because experience has convinced us that objects of this kind always do fall. And if you're not convinced by this, you can do experiments yourself and find out if truly stones would fall. So what do we have? We have a general proposition that all solid bodies fall in the absence of any upward forces or pressure. And this formula has the nature of a law that can be expressed in a representation. Now, what is the essence of a law? Peirce writes, "The essence of law consists in its being a conditional truth about the indefinite future and never can become matter of actual fact." What he's saying here is that there's a difference between a law and an instance of a law. The first one belongs to the universe of thirdness, whereas the latter belongs to the universe of secondness. That is to say that the being of law is a case of reality, and the being of an instance of a law is a case of existence. The law looks into the future and could be characterized as a would-be, that is, what would happen in the future, and the instance of a law is an actual fact, what just happened. The point I'm here trying to make is that there's a difference between the being of a law and the being of an instance of a law. I'm sure we all agree that there are laws of nature, but what is the being of these laws of nature? As we have noted, the being of these laws is not existent. These laws do not exist, but they are real. That means that the being of these laws is always in the future. These laws are real would-bes, are real general principles that are operative in our universe, but their being is something different than material. We see that the stone falls, of course, but that is just an instance of a law. That is a brute actual fact. but the law itself that allowed us to predict that the stone would fall refers to future. It has its being in this real tendency that individual instances would conform to this law, this habit, or this tendency. I guess we have to take more examples. Okay, how many words are there on this screen? 1? 2? Well, there is one word, the word the. But we see 2 instances of this same word. We thus make a difference between a type and a token. The word the is a type, and on this screen right now you see 2 tokens of that type. But the type itself does not exist, but it's real. The instances do exist. You see the difference? These instances are actual facts. They have a certain compulsion in them, a certain opposition to you, and you cannot help but to see 2 times the word the. But the type is a rather mysterious thing because it is not existent. It does not exist. It only have instances in these tokens. Its being consists not in any material or concrete being, that's for instances, but in a general tendency, a real would-be, that you will interpret these instances in a certain way. To put it bluntly, you have a habit to interpret these instances in a certain way. You have a habit to interpret these tokens as being instances of certain type. Let's take one more example. Imagine we have 2 6-sided dices. Now we roll the dices and we can get any number between 2 and 12. An individual roll is an instance. Instance of what, you may ask? Well, if we throw these 2 dices, let's say 100 times or 1,000 times, we get a distribution which looks something like this. Now, what is this? Well, this is a probability law. It shows the probability of each possible kind of result. Now, does this probability law exist? The answer is no. We cannot find it anywhere in our universe. We cannot point at it. We cannot sense it. It is not a material thing. It is a law. Its being belongs to the universe of thirdness. It's a real living tendency, a real living general principle. Now, this picture or diagram is a representation of that law. We can also represent, for example, the law of gravity or any other physical law. But these are representations. The law itself is something more than material. It's a living tendency, a living habit. Let us now go back to the first quote in this video. God does not exist, but God is real. Now you may understand a bit better what this means. It means that it would be quite ludicrous to argue for the existence of God. That would mean that God is some material creature here somewhere in the universe that can be found and pointed at, and there may be a point in time when we would find God and say, oh, there's the God, we found it. It would be like a hide and seek kind of thing. It wouldn't make any sense. But to argue that God is real is a quite different thing, because now we understand God as some kind of a tendency or power or law. Now the question itself, is God real, is a whole different conversation. But it helps us to understand the difference between existence and reality. But the one point I really want to hit home is that to say that there are real laws operating in nature, real general principles and tendencies that are not reducible to matter, is by no means arguing for anything supernatural or divine. In fact, to make that claim is just common sense. But what are your thoughts on this issue? Is there really something more than just our concrete material existence? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If you like this video, you may also like my series on free will and cosmology. You can also check out my ongoing series on semiotics. But most importantly, it really helps me if you click that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up and share this video with your friends.